Broadcasting from the Cass Corridor in Detroit, this is The Metro. I'm Tia Graham.
And I'm Robin Vincent. Today on the program, auto suppliers are freaked out about the T word. I'm talking tariffs, obviously. How scared are they? And how could tariffs on auto suppliers affect you and me?
Plus, the race for U.S. Senate in Michigan is heating up. Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed just announced his candidacy. He'll join us in studio to explain why he's running.
And the U.S. healthcare system hasn't been great about taking care of expectant mothers, especially moms of color. A program landing in Wayne County could make a dent in the problem.
But first, as the birds begin to chirp and the trees begin to bloom, it means Bookstock is making its way back to Laurel Park Place in Livonia. For the 21st year, one of the largest used book and media sales will once again set up shop next Sunday, April 27th through May 4th. The week-long event is a celebration of all things physical media, including audiobooks, physical books themselves that you can hold, CDs and DVDs, and so much more. Neil Rubin is an honorary chairperson for Bookstock and a longtime columnist for the Detroit Free Press. He joins us now to discuss Bookstock. Neil, welcome to the Metro.
Thank you so much, and I so love the idea of physical media, stuff you can hold. It's right there. That's the beauty of it.
That's what I love when I hear folks talk about Bookstock and their experience. It's about going through and sifting through with their hands and feeling things out and seeing what they like. And it's just a really cool experience. So, Neil, Bookstock 2025 is happening next weekend. It begins with a pre-sale and a performance from the Walled Lake Performance Ensemble and a Bookstock Parade of volunteers. So let's talk a little bit about that celebratory opening of Bookstock 2025.
It's a real treat. You know, the volunteers work so hard, and you see them at the cash registers when you're there, but we have just thousands of person hours involved in just sorting all the books. We have 400,000 plus books, CDs, audiobooks, DVDs, and they're not just in a pile in the middle of Laurel Park Place. They're sorted by category. The books in particular, history, health, mystery, whatever it is you're passionate about, you'll find it there. And I'm always afraid people think we've just got this mountain of books in the middle of the mall with people climbing up to try to find what they want.
Oh, sir. I'm just thinking the Hunger Game of books. The Hunger Game of books. But you do have a cool performance, the Walled Lake Performance Ensemble, and a few other things that are happening. But I do want to talk about those volunteers. What does the makeup of the volunteers look like? As we've been exploring literacy here on the Metro and learning a lot more about librarians and the process there. Do you have librarians that are volunteers as well, and teachers and so on and so forth?
We have all of that, and then we have, just our core of volunteers who are passionate about Bookstock, but also some of the agencies we help support, some of the nonprofits we help support will volunteer, particularly during the sale, and that translates into support from Bookstock, from the money we raise. I think I skipped answering your first question. I got so excited, but yes, Sunday, 8:15 a.m., April 27th. That's the opening pre-sale. It's the only time there's a charge to get in. It's $25, and from 8:15 to 11, you sort of get first pick at whatever your passion is. And experience has taught me the one place you don't want to stand during that morning rush is in the way of the cookbooks. One of my favorite Bookstock memories is, because nobody was actually injured, a TV reporter was doing a live report from Bookstock as people came pouring in, and somebody beelining for the cookbooks just shoved him out of the way. Serious business, these cookbooks.
I mean, that's one of the things that Robin reminds me is that cookbooks are some of the highest selling books that we see in the United States, because people love to just tangibly hold a book and read it when they're cooking. I personally have my favorite cookbook as well at home, and I use it for baking all the time. So I do understand that, Neil. You got to get out the way for those cookbooks. But let's transition here a little bit and talk about the Bookstock Fund itself. You talked a little bit about the proceeds and where those those proceeds go. So let's talk about some of the major goals of the Bookstock Fund.
Well, the whole point of Bookstock is to raise money for literacy and education programs. We've distributed more than $3.3 million in the 20 years of previous sales. And it's why we do what we do. And you just get enraptured with some of these agencies we help out. One of my favorites is Remain in Touch, which people behind bars are able to record themselves reading books, and we get those recordings to their children. So incarcerated parents can still read bedtime stories. I get choked up just thinking about it.
I was going to say, I'm literally about to tear up right now, because that is like one of the most beautiful things I've heard in a while, that your kid can go to sleep to your voice even if you're not there. So that's just really beautiful.
Yeah, and just hearing you say that, I got chills all over again. I'm a sap.
I know. You got us both in here tearing up now, but that's such a beautiful, just one thing that the Bookstock Fund is able to do for people in the community, which, what more could you ask for from that? But as we continue on, once again, that $3.2 million in literacy and education projects and programs, we were talking just a little bit, Neil, about the importance of literacy right now, and comprehending what you're reading and making sure that you understand what's going on around you. So can we talk about how the Bookstock Fund helps literacy, especially throughout the city of Detroit, which we know, and the state of Michigan, but the city of Detroit we know has a lower literacy rate.
Yeah, and the city is one of our focuses, has been since the beginning. Brilliant Detroit, who you're probably familiar with, you've probably talked to those folks. They basically set up sort of clubhouses and learning centers in neighborhoods so that kids are, reading is becoming ingrained, and it's not just something, you tolerate at school or check off a list. It's sort of teaching a love of books, which I think is where the comprehension and the devotion comes from in people. And when you can pick out your own books, when you can go and there's just this huge array of things that I want this one, no, I want that one. It's so much fun to see kids getting excited. And we have children's books starting at 50 cents or $1.
And I love that as well, Neil, the importance of being able to choose your own books and your own materials that's not connected to school, that's not connected to some type of chore that you may have to do. I know for myself, it was really difficult to get back into reading after college, going through 4 years of constant reading. So let's talk about that, just a little bit of cultivating that love for reading, especially within young people, but also within adults, because a lot of us need to tap back in to our love for literacy.
It's absolutely true. It's a way of reminding all of us that, hey, wait a minute, reading isn't an obligation. Reading is fun. Reading is something you want to make time for, not something, you settle on when you don't have anything else. And I think we're making inroads there. Frankly, we were worried. We had meetings about this 10 years, maybe 15 years ago. Do people care about books anymore? Are people still going to care about books? People are reading on their phones. They're reading Kindles. They can't be bothered to read entire novels. Are we obsolete? And yet we get bigger every year, and I just find that so encouraging.
Bigger every year. And I do, we're going to bring in someone who is most likely a generational book stalker in a moment. But first things first, I do want to talk about those volunteers again in that community that you all have been able to build. You've had 21 book stocks. This would be the 21st year. I know the pandemic cut you all down for that year. But let's talk about that community, because like you said, you've watched it grow and grow and grow. A lot of us did think that we were going to see the end of a physical book due to Kindles and e-readers, but that's not the case at all. So let's talk about that community of that you've been able to cultivate through Bookstock.
Well, there are always stories coming out of the sale. There's, for heaven's sake, I've forgotten her last name, so we'll just call her Sally, which is her first name. She used to come every year because there was a big project book, much ballyhooed. There's a word you don't get to say very often, much ballyhooed when it came out. It was called One Day in the Life of America, and they just turned loose photographers all over the country and said, take pictures that represent this wide, enormous country. And her mother was retired in Florida. I think she and two friends were like playing volleyball with a beach ball in a pool. And she was, if my memory is correct, she was on page 94. Her mom was. Oh. And Sally would come every year and buy whatever copies of that book she could find until finally she stopped buying them because she had more than she could ever give away or do anything with. But she then became a devoted volunteer. Oh. And that happens. People who just get enraptured with the sale become part of the team.
That's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing, Neil. And we are listening to the Metro on 101.9 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham. We're talking about Bookstock 2025, one of the largest week-long book and media sales in southeastern Michigan. Our guest is Neil Rubin. Now, I do want to bring in one of our photographers here, Natalie. She's a second-generation bookstocker, or at least I would like to believe you are a second-generation bookstocker. Did you start going by yourself?
Oh, I absolutely did not. Yeah, no. My parents took me. My dad actually grew up in Livonia, and both my parents are teachers, so I like to enjoy that teacher discount when that's available.
Shout out to your parents.
Shout out to teachers. Yeah, reading is such like a family thing for me. I grew up, my mom and I read until I was like together every night until I was in like 5th grade. So we go together almost every year as a family and pick out all of our books and take it to the checkout together. And I always find such amazing things that I don't get to see at other bookstores. For example, there was a Prison Creative Arts Project poetry collection I found, which is very like close and dear to my heart because I know a lot of formerly incarcerated people. Found a collection of Michigan poets. I found a book by a person that I really respect, Arundhati Roy, that I had never had a chance to really explore what she had written before, and then I just stumbled upon it there. So I get so many books from Bookstock every year. I'm so excited that it's coming back.
Neil, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. We do. We so adore teachers. Natalie, I just can't tell you how much I love that. That is just the Bookstock dream as far as I'm concerned. But as you can imagine, we adore teachers, and we have Teacher Appreciation Days, Tuesday and Wednesday, the 29th and 30th, where from 2 to 7 p.m., teachers with an ID that explains that, yes, their teachers get 50% off. And we've talked to teachers who stock their entire classroom for the upcoming year with what they haul away from Bookstock.
And Neil, we're going to keep you as well. But Neil, I do want to stay there with the teachers. It's one of my questions I was going to ask you was about the importance this event holds for teachers in terms of stocking their books. A lot of folks forget or maybe not know that teachers do a lot of the purchasing for their classrooms every year. So can we talk about the importance of having a space where they can go and get discounted books for their class and their students?
Oh, it's enormously important. And it's also, just fun for us to watch it happen. There are some field trips of kids coming out to Bookstock. We have the Bookstock Best Awards, which is it's an essay contest for Detroit Public Schools 4th graders, and very short essays on who's your favorite book character and why. And it's fun to think about that as adults looking back. Who was my favorite character? But there are cash prizes for the kids, for the schools, and for the teachers. And, it's not enormous. It's a bigger, I think it's $500 for the schools of the winning kids. But we're putting gift cards in the hands of kids who've never had access to $100 before or have never won anything and been publicly cheered where winners are announced live on TV. They're crying and literally jumping up and down.
It's just everything you just said is yes, because I think about the kids being in this experience and experiencing something they've never had a chance to experience. But then when you said $500, not that much, but that's a party for the class. The student just did something for the whole class. I think about that $500. It's pizza party. It's all types of stuff for the classroom. So that's a really, really cool way to make sure that kids understand that literacy it's for fun too. You can have fun doing it.
Yeah, it's not an obligation. And Natalie, the way you were raised, and bless those teacher parents of yours, where wow, now we get to read. We look forward to reading. We explore new things. We broaden the world with reading, which is how it should be. And I like to think how we have it end to end at Laurel Park Place for 8 days a year.
And Natalie, before we do let you go, I do want to ask you one more question. You grew up with teachers as parents. You grew up with educators. In what ways would you tell your generation of folks, because you're a younger folk, what would you tell your generation of folks about the importance of reading and ways to get them in touch with reading and get them away from their phones for a little while?
Oh, absolutely. I love to get away from my phone. I honestly, it's like people talk about it gives you like psychic damage every time that you're on it for more than 15 minutes. I would say that reading isn't just what you experienced in school. You might not have loved reading the classics, but there's really something out there for everyone. It's just about finding what you enjoy. And honestly, I find reading physical books to be the most rewarding because I can just disconnect and really focus in on that story and you know, experience something that, you know, I would never otherwise have a chance to. You know, you really get into the story, you really emphasize with the characters, empathize rather, and that is just so important. And I really think more people would benefit from that time that's just deep focus, deep reading, and disappearing into a book. And of course, like, my favorite thing is to read a book and then completely just rant to my friends for hours about it to make them read it as well. Like, there's such a joy to be found in that.
I love that so much. Natalie Albrecht is a WDET intern in our digital department. Thank you so much, Natalie, for joining us and giving us a little bit of your love about Bookstock. And as well, Neil, before we let you go, I do want to ask you about the event itself. It is from April 27th to May 4th. May the 4th be with you. So just talk a little bit about that week and what folks should know.
Well, merchandise changes every day. The mall insists on staying open and having stores, so we can't put our books everywhere, but I understand. Anyway, so there's fresh stuff every day. A lot of people will come back 2 or 3 times over the week. Bookstockmi.org for information on specific sales, that sort of thing. On the final day, the final Sunday, everything is half off. And Monday, if you're a nonprofit, this is so cool. Show up with a letterhead and as big a truck as you can find, and you can haul away everything you want. And, you know, it's a big swipe at a big issue, yes. Literacy. And I just kind of love that we start fresh every year. You haul it away, you use it, you enjoy it, you benefit from it, and we'll be back again. We'll do it all over.
Neil Rubin is an honorary chairperson for Bookstock and a longtime columnist for the Detroit Free Press. I want to say thank you so much for joining us. Natalie, thank you as well for joining us on the Metro today.
Thank you.
From the WDET newsroom, the Grosse Ile Parkway Bridge will close for up to 2 months on May 1st. Wayne County, which operates the bridge over the Detroit River, says it needs steel repairs. Residents will still have to use the toll at the north end of the island to reach the mainland, so you will still have access to the island. Up next, auto suppliers are afraid of their industry being hurt due to President Donald Trump's tariffs. We'll hear from an auto supplier consultant about how they're holding up. We'll be right back on the Metro. You all stay right there.